There's someone running for the door. Katie,
Oh, okay.
I mean, they're literally bolting. It's not exactly the end of 6:30 yet. Oh, yeah, it is now. So we'll just wait a moment to let one more person in. It's really amazing. I'm seeing some people here that we've meditated together for 12 years or something? Longer than that. Something like that. A really long time. And other folks I've never met before, never seen before, and some folks that I've only worked with on the internet. And so it's really interesting and a new thing, right? To just all be in a room together. So I'm finding that, again, last week my head was blown off my shoulders by it, but now I'm a little more used to it. But still, it's a new thing. Other running people, but we got to shut it at some point. So, but it's actually like 2 folks.
Okay, wonderful.
I'm going to start anyway, though.
Okay.
So let's begin in an unusual way. Sorry, YouTubers, you probably won't be able to see this very well, but let's actually do some quick movement together. And make this work for you, whatever is okay with your body, don't do stuff that's not okay with your body. And what we're gonna do is really, really, really easy, but I just wanted us to all do it together, okay? So let's start out by just stretching up, and if you can, get up on your tippy toes and really, really reach up for those ceiling tiles, and just get as much of a nice, pleasant stretch in your torso as you can. Really feel that. Okay, then if you can, keeping your knees pretty straight, come down and touch the floor. Get a really, really pleasant stretch in your back. If you've got to bend your knees, or if this is uncomfortable, don't do anything weird. Make it feel good. If it does feel good though, bend one knee and get the stretch in the back of the other leg. And then bend the other knee and get the stretch in the back of the other leg. Feels great. Come back up again. Stretching towards the ceiling. And then get your legs a little further apart, and we'll do some of these real fast. However you want to do them, whatever feels good. Make sure it feels good. Nice and slow. We're not trying to impress anyone or break any records. We just want to kind of get our body happening here a little bit. All right, there we go. That's it. That's the big movement program for tonight. Just to get everyone stretched. And now we'll begin meditating. We've got some SFDCers showing up. Hi, you guys. Okay, so we're going to meditate for an hour. So get ready to sit still for an hour. And the idea is don't move. And when I say don't move, I mean don't move. If you have to, don't move. But other than that, we'll just sit and do whatever meditation you need to do for an hour, but I'll guide one that you can follow if you want to, or you can ignore completely if you'd rather just sit in a room and meditate with some folks and do your own guidance. Either way is fine. So as usual, let's talk about our posture. And it's easy on our cushions, right? So on the cushions, you want to sit so that your lower back has a nice little curve in it. Right? That's what the cushion does. And then that allows your upper body to just kind of naturally almost lift upwards without any effort. Get in that one nice balanced spot with your spine where it just keeps itself up, right? It doesn't feel like you're doing anything. And the very tip top of your head feels like, in a way, it's almost like suspended from the ceiling in a very pleasant manner. Okay? And as you're doing this, as you're getting into your posture, you're just letting go of everything. Just drop everything you're worried about. Stop thinking about shit. If you can, if you can't, that's okay. But I invite you, you have total permission to just drop it for the next hour. And then allow your shoulders to relax and kind of open, right? And your arms can be just loose. Either, most people got the idea, either on your knees or in your lap like that. Okay, so you've got this posture that just feels both very alert, very upright, and yet is very, very stable and very relaxed. Okay? Now let's just breathe for a moment. Just check yourself breathing, simple breathing. And the question I want you to ask yourself right now is, what's it like to be me right now? What's it like to be me right now? And this is just a very general, open question. The answer might be, it really sucks, or I'm feeling so much joy, or maybe I'm just kind of, busy, or my leg hurts, or whatever. But any answer is fine, as long as it's how you're doing right now. So just check in with what it's like to be you right now. And whatever the answer is, for the length of this meditation, let that be completely fine. At least for the length of the meditation, whatever it's like to be you right now is okay. You're allowed to be that. And just feel like yourself letting go of trying to change yourself, trying to control yourself, trying to dominate and boss yourself around, trying to be somebody else, trying to be something different, trying to look different, trying to act different, trying to be better, smarter, skinnier, whatever is on your mind. Just set that aside and let yourself be whatever you are right now. Exactly the way you are right now. And see if you can settle into that a little bit. Just let that be a place you get kind of homey with. And you might feel the urge coming back. Oh no, I don't want it to be, not that. That. Let it all just be just the way it is. Okay, good. Now for our opening metaphor, we're going to have a metaphor for our meditation, which you can just think about or do as a visualization or whatever. Last week we used an alembic, a sacred vessel of transformation as the image. This week I want you to meditate like the sky. Okay? So the metaphor for our meditation is be the sky. And the properties of the sky are that it is vast, it's open, it's effortless. Everything happens in the sky, but the sky doesn't do any of it. It just resting as the sky. It accepts everything, rejects nothing. And it's beautiful. The sky is so beautiful without any effort. So just either picture that sky right now or be the sky. But either way, just notice any of those properties in your experience right now, no matter how small, no matter how partial or very, very quiet they might be. Notice vastness and openness. Notice this total receptivity. Everything is welcome. The sky is uncomplicated. Everything can happen, all kinds of crazy stuff can happen in the sky, but the sky itself is completely uncomplicated. And the sky is beautiful. So notice any of those properties that are present in experience right now. And see if you can take in that sky or allow yourself to be a little sky-like. You can't do it wrong, and it's not a contest. However sky-like you are is the right amount. But just notice those sky-like properties and sit with that now for a few moments. And the sky is full of air. So now just notice the sky breathing. And if you want to, you can do some deep breathing with really long out breaths, really slow, extra long out breaths if that's comfortable, or you can just breathe naturally, just regular old sky breathing without any change, just natural breathing, whichever works for you. But allow this awareness, this sky-like awareness, to just be aware of that breathing. We're not, drilling down into our breathing, and we're not trying to follow it right at the point of your nose or anything like that. We're just allowing the movement of the breath to be noticed in awareness, totally effortlessly. The wave of the breathing in is noticed in awareness. The wave of breathing out is noticed in awareness. And notice how obvious that is. It doesn't take a lot of effort to be aware of it. It's right there. So let this be really simple, really simple. Just aware of the breath moving in and out. Awareness is naturally aware. It's aware of breathing. It doesn't take any special focus, doesn't take any special effort. Awareness welcomes everything, so maybe a lot of thinking is happening. That's fine. We don't need to change that. Just let the sky of awareness notice the coming and going of the breath in the easiest way possible. If you want a little bit of an anchor with that, just make sure you notice the end of the in-breath and again the end of the out-breath. end of the in-breath, end of the out-breath, and that'll just give you a little bit more to hang on to if you want that. But this is not like one pointed laser beam focus. This is wide, wide open, vast as the sky awareness, simply noticing the breath arising. Little by little, I want you to see if there's anything that just wants to slough off, just fall off. You might notice you're keeping yourself really tense, and just, that's okay, but if it wants to, it can just fall away. No tension required. Maybe there's a lot of real planning going on right now, but maybe just for a time of meditation that just feels like it can just drop off. If not, that's totally fine. What can you just effortlessly and easily, what burden can you just set down right now? Set it down. It's okay. It'll still be there if you need it when you get up. Just let it go. It's going to be okay. Continuing to just let the sky of awareness notice the breathing. That's it. Very, very simple. it's funny. You don't really have to pretend or imagine that you are like the sky, because that is the actual nature of your own awareness, your own mind. Already, since the very beginning, your natural mind is wide open, utterly awake and aware and bright, effortless, welcoming. Clear. And beautiful. So just notice that nature of your own mind and just rest as that. It's not something you're generating, it's always been there. It's not something you have to find, it's the thing that's looking. Rest as what you naturally always already are, before everything. And whatever arises in the sky of the mind, just let it happen. But don't get involved with it. If there's just a bunch of thinking happening, that's okay. Just find what knows the thinking and rest as that. Don't spend any time trying to control the thoughts, resist the thoughts, change the thoughts. It doesn't matter if they're good thoughts or bad thoughts, or ugly thoughts or beautiful thoughts, or thoughts you're supposed to have or thoughts you're not supposed to have. None of that applies. Thoughts are just like reflections in a mirror. Be the mirror, which is not bothered by any reflection. Simply rest as what you already are. Naked awareness itself. some emotions are happening. But what if you just gave up entirely trying to change what you're feeling? Whether it's really difficult or feels too big or feels like the wrong emotion or for whatever reason you want a different one. What if instead you just let them all be just the way they are? Exactly the way they are, not controlling them, not suppressing them or denying them, or struggling with them or trying to change them. But the vast open sky just welcomed any emotion that came into it. It's totally fine. The sky's not bothered by any particular winds that move through it. Everything is completely fine just the way it is. Find the thing that knows the emotion, this natural mind, this naturally spacious, open wakefulness that's already present without any effort at all. Rest in that. Rest as that. In the desert, there's arches of sandstone carved by the wind. They make a beautiful frame for the sky. And that stone has been holding itself up for 100 million years. But eventually, something very slight, maybe just the brush of a bat wing in the night, touches that rock and it just all lets go, completely drops. And leaving only open sky, just as beautiful. Is the moon bothered when a stone in a pond ripples its reflection? Good. So now let go of that. Feel free to move and stretch. Allow your body to feel good. In fact, let's do our stretching together again. Get your legs back in action a little bit. But make this work for you as usual. Don't do anything that is going to tweak your back or whatever. So let's very slowly stretch up. If you want to, you can go up on your toes. Put a leaf, that feels good. Go back down. And then bring it back up. Stretching up high again. And then leaning one way. However that feels good. The other way, however that feels good. There we go. Just a little bit of movement. Remind yourself and your legs that they get to move too. Normally this would be a Dharma talk moment, but I feel like the guided meditation tonight was the Dharma talk. So I'm just going to open it up to reports. So if you want to say how that was for you or ask a question, then consider it to be a meditation AMA. It's an AMA about meditation. Not really anything, a particular kind of anything. Just raise your hand. Yes.
Of all the meditations you remember to ever do, which one's your favorite?
All of them, really. I mean, I'm just glad I did them. I don't think of it as like particular this one or that one, but more like it's almost like, what's your favorite song you ever played, or, the most beautiful walk you ever had or something. They're all kind of great, right? So it's more like a practice in that real sense of praxis, right? Where it's the doing of it every day over a whole lifetime, right? Decades and stuff. That it just, that's my favorite part. That, I have this relationship with the practice. How about you?
Well, my favorite, about 4 years ago, I can't remember. I appreciate you taking my question seriously, though.
Good. Other questions arising for anyone?
Last week, the sequence was to engage and then let go of thoughts, emotion, sense of self, and sensations. And I wonder if there's anything more to say about that sequence.
Yeah, good memory, right? That was the sequence last week. And the thing is that the sequence doesn't matter unless it does. Right? If it works for you in a particular way, right, then great, use that sequence. What matters is that each of those things is, seen as empty or dropped or let go of or not engaged with or whatever. And we could go on. We could talk about, the sense of time, the sense of space, the sense of doership, the sense of all kinds of things, right? So anything that the mind is clinging to or congealing around or encrusting upon or whatever, we notice the emptiness of that That even though it seems like, you're there's something to hold on to there, really there isn't something to hold on to. And so the real sequence is notice whatever you're holding on to and let go. Not push it away, not get rid of it, but just, literally like you were holding on to it, just relax. If it goes away, fine. If it stays, fine, but no need to hold on to it. So that, we notice that primordial, already existing groundlessness, right? The fact that we just pretend there's stuff to hold on to because that is pretend safety. It feels like, supposedly feels good, although the more you notice it, the more, trying to hang on to the wind is really actually kind of anxiety producing, right? So when we let go, it's a big relief. So yeah, for each individual, the mind is a little different, so there's stuff that's easier to let go of, or easier to see the emptiness of, and other things that are maybe a little stickier. So the sequence is try the easy ones first, and it sort of snowballs, and then the things that are harder to release or relax or just let be but not engage with are they get a little easier, right? So use whatever sequence works. Yeah. Sinead, right, or behind? Yeah, that. You were raising your hand.
Why do you think, maybe this is just.
Can you speak up, please?
Maybe this is just me, but I seem to be most attached to my most painful thoughts. Why do you feel like I don't know if that's just me, but if you experience that at all yourself, why do you think it is that our most painful thoughts are the most difficult ones, like the ones that just kind of keep wanting to resurface?
Why do you think that is? I'm curious. I'm not asking that like to play back. I'm just actually curious.
My intuition tells me that it's because it's the parts that I have the most work to do in. So that's what my intuition says. But there's, a lot of the most painful stuff comes from a space of like memory, and nostalgia, I would say, which
Yeah.
is not really real.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, are these painful thoughts of like something bad that happened, or painful thoughts like nostalgia where it's actually something good that you miss now?
I think for me it's like more current, like more present, like what's happening today in my everyday that is like most difficult to deal with.
Yeah, so there's a couple things to say about that. One, that's part of our makeup as, not just as people and not just as primates, but like any animal that evolved has negativity bias, right? So for complicated reasons, difficult stuff is more interesting. Our brain sticks to it because, it's the thing to solve, it's the problem. So there's kind of a science-y answer in there, or, ish answer in there. But, that sense of, that I was just remarking on over here, that sense of sometimes wanting something to hang on to just so there's not nothing to hang on to, I think goes even more deeper. And that the safety and security even of a painful cage is better than the momentary scariness of freedom, right? And so there's a kind of a game you can play of just seeing what it would be like to relax, having to hang on to that just for like a half a second.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Well, trying to do as they were coming up, or as those thoughts were coming up, I was just trying to like suspend it.
Trying to,
Suspend,
yeah.
like, in that space, but it doesn't stop them
Yeah.
stop suspending.
And so in this way of working, you're not trying to stop them, and it doesn't matter if they keep going. But notice the thing that knows the thoughts. Instead of aiming awareness at the thoughts, aim awareness at the thing, in quotes, thing that's aware of the thoughts. And rest in that. And you'll notice that thing is not bothered by those thoughts, even a little bit. Like I was saying, it's like the mirror that's reflecting. Doesn't matter if there's, really ugly things being reflected in the mirror, or really beautiful things, or really boring things, or really exciting things. The mirror is fine. And yet it's perfectly reflecting those. So instead of trying to do anything at all to or with the thoughts, or to get them to go away, or keep them from arising, or whatever, we are being the one who knows the thoughts, and resting as that. And noticing that that knower is fine. It's fine with any kind of thoughts. They can never, ever, ever harm the knower. Okay? So it's really, when I say like rest as, I really mean that word rest. Don't do anything to them. Be the one that knows them, and just rest as that, because that's always there.
Yeah, I felt myself trying to jump into problem solving mode.
Yeah.
And I had to stop it, stop trying to solve the problem right now, stop trying to solve the pain right now. Just
Or even more deeply, let problem solving mode happen. Just be the awareness that is aware of the problem solving. Instead of getting right in there with the gears and doing it, just almost like allow it to reflect. Okay, problem solving is happening. So what? Solve away, but I'm not giving it any energy right now, just knowing it. Okay? It's a little bit different move there. It's a much more of a just letting be. I want to say letting go, but sometimes people hear that as like pushing away. But I don't mean pushing away, I mean like just let it be, just what it is. Okay? Yeah.
Along those lines, in your experience with negativity bias, this kind of deeply ingrained thing that happens across all creatures to keep us safe. With practice over time, do you feel that fades, that bias, or the capacity to be okay with that bias happening?
It's about the capacity to be okay with it. I mean, I think it probably does shift to some extent, but there's nothing more dangerous than someone who thinks they've overcome their biases. Right? It's always a big red flag. So I would say at least you're okay with the fact that that's happening. That's much deeper anyway. Right? So, what knows that this is occurring? And just keep pointing back at that, pointing back at that. Okay? I do think over time, when we don't really feed that kind of material, it does diminish, but trying to diminish it is feeding it. So you just kind of a hands-off policy in terms of meditation. Other stuff, yes?
Sometimes when I lean into either spaciousness or equanimity, it'll come with this kind of unpleasant flattening of affect for me. It'll feel sort of dull in a negative way. I'm just curious if you have any suggestions for how to approach that or work with that.
What's leaning into this openness?
If I
No. What?
Oh, what? Sorry.
Yes. Can take that sentence a couple ways.
Yeah.
What is it that is leaning into this emptiness or this openness?
Awareness.
The openness itself.
Yeah.
So is that going to somehow flatten anything? and maybe there's some efforting of trying to be open or whatever, and that's like the imagination of what openness would be like is flattening stuff out or whatever. So don't try so hard. Right? Openness doesn't mean there's not a lot happening. There's a lot happening in the sky all the time, but the sky's still wide open. So probably that. Just don't try so hard. But openness has always been there. Will always be there. You don't have to do anything at all. Just rest as it. And if it's flat for a while, okay, let it be flat. It'll. People pay good money to have, some flatness happen in their affect. It's like kind of some good old neutrality. But if you sit there like that for a while, it'll start bubbling again. Right? So that's okay. Yeah. What else is on your mind? Your single mind. Yes.
What's your experience with the relationship between psychological work, like trauma resolution, IFS, shadow work, these sort of things, and the deepening and continued stability of resting and awareness?
They go hand in hand, right? They help each other. So if you're doing lots of meditation, and especially if that's loosening up the sense of identification with all those psychological processes, it's going to be much easier for them to individuate, to grow, to change, you can improve them if you want to, all that, because they don't seem as much like your identity. So a lot of times what's blocking our psychological growth is, no, but I am my depression. Who would I be without my depression, right? And so that kind of identification is locking it in place. And so the meditation releases the identification, then that can change. Oh, I can be a different person who's not depressed. And that becomes much easier. So all the psychological processes are kind of like lubricated by meditation. But also it works the other way around. The psychological growth really helps the meditation because, of course, if you're just sitting there, I don't know, seething with rage and despair, and you can only think about, how awful you are as a person or whatever, it's hard to meditate. I could sit here and say, be the sky as much as I want, and if you're just really caught up, it's psychologically, it's going to be very, very difficult. Or let's say trauma from the past just keeps bursting up, and it's hard, right? So we want to do that kind of work, and that sort of clears the decks a little bit and makes it easier to find some stability in awareness. Otherwise, the psychological knots and holdings and traumas and distress is so big that someone telling you to relax is shut up, don't tell me to relax, shut up. You just get reactive. So, but the two help each other a lot. And working simultaneously on both is you get synergies. It really moves it a lot faster. But they're different, right? They're different. And as you see, when we're just sitting, we're not trying to fix any of that stuff. Although actually, of course, just accepting it all with this tremendous openness and welcoming is actually helping to fix it, right? But we're not getting in there and trying to manipulate it. So they're different processes, but if after meditation or before meditation, you're doing therapy, you're doing some other kind of work on your psychological stuff, those two things start really helping each other. Right? The big one is if you've got a lot of trauma to do, it's hard to meditate. And in fact, when you trauma work to do, it's hard to meditate. So that when you relax and open, trauma will come up. And so if it's small enough, that's okay, but if it starts really taking over, it's super important to go do the psychological work on that trauma now. Because otherwise, just having it, volcanoing up while you're meditating is serially re-traumatizing you. So you don't want to do that. So but the two really, really engage each other very powerfully. Okay?
Yeah. Can you talk a bit about stream entry and like what would be what are some of the indications if you've entered it?
Right, so stream entry or sotapanna is the original term. It's like a technical term from early Buddhism, right? And I'm not super interested in the technical details of that, how it's like really specifically defined. But as using even a term like that in a much more general way, the main thing is just noticing directly that you are not the thing inside you called a self. It's that simple. And or that there's no such thing in, an object in you called a self. And we can notice that shallowly and maybe, like kind of bounce off it, or we can notice it a little more deeply, but at some point you notice it with such a intuitive and visceral experiential impact that you can never unnotice it. Or even if you do, the minute you remember, it will just, be totally present. So that kind of, I've had such a visceral impact of this that it can never be forgotten. I would say that's basically stream entry. And again, that's kind of different than how it would be traditionally described. Okay? Why do you care about that term? And
Well, if I had a self, I would say, I'm just kidding. I think that a few things, there's a certain, when I try to talk about my experience, both meditating and not meditating, in the last year or so, I just noticed I hit some place where I can't put words to it. And I keep hearing about this term stream entry, and something wiggles inside when I hear it.
Mhm.
I don't quite was exactly sure what it meant.
So if we go like right into the real like tradition, there's this idea of like a lineage transmission from the historical Buddha, like moving down through time, okay? And it's a stream of like this wisdom energy. And most of the world is, just gonna live and die and repeatedly and never touch that. But eventually at a certain point with enough, clarity and realization, you get into that stream. And
That's gorgeous.
it's a nice image. And then once you're in forever. You'll never leave the stream, and it just deepens and deepens and deepens until, you're, I'll say it in a later Buddhist way, but your innate Buddhahood is realized. So that's why they call it, that's the stream you're entering, the stream of this enlightened wisdom. But, it has a whole bunch of other properties that are supposed to happen with it and so on. But in general, that thing, that quivering, or, the fact that it's indescribable or whatever, that's good. Go into the indescribable, that place, right? Like that spot where there's just nothing to say about it, and yet it's not nothing or flat or boring or whatever. It's really powerful, and yet there's nothing to say. And just rest there. There's nothing to do there either. You don't have to be anybody there, or you don't have to imagine anything, right? Just,
Thank you.
yep. What time we got here? Oh, we gotta stop. Let's do some announcements with Katie. Eric, do you wanna just point that at her?
Thanks, Eric. This is fantastic. Okay, this is our second ever meditation at the Alembic. And both last week and this week, it has just been so amazing to be here with all of you. It's so special to be able to sit together in person and do this together. I'm so grateful that you're all here. I have to admit, last week during the sit, I was just distracted the whole time, wondering if we had enough water for tea. But this week I got to actually sit, and it was even better. So I'm glad you all could be here for my first sit at the Olympics. So we're a nonprofit, and we're created by and for this community. And so we're supported entirely by donations. And with your donations, we can create the center that we all want to be at. And so if it's within your joy and within your means, please donate. If you signed up in advance, thank you. That helps us out a lot for several reasons. And if you didn't, that's also fine. There's donation information in the lobby where you can also sign up for our mailing list, which helps us out a lot too. So one of the reasons that registering in advance helps us out a lot is because right now all of the back end stuff, all of it, is done by me. And yeah, thank you. The applause is nice, but what would be even cooler is there's a whole spectrum of stuff to do, all the way from like the very spreadsheety stuff to the just like heavy thing, move there stuff. And there's like, and everything in between. And I can say, and this is like, I'm not just like saying this because I want help. I can say from like very deep personal experience that contributing in any way to a space of practice is incredibly fulfilling. And there's a lot to do. So if you have extra time, talk to me or email berkeleyolympic@gmail.com, berkeleyolympic@gmail.com.
What is it?
berkeleyolympic@gmail.com. And just say you want to volunteer. This won't happen forever, but right now when like new volunteers come in, typically we chat for a little bit and we figure out like, okay, what's going to really set you on fire? What's like a growth thing for you? And like, what does the Alembic need? And let's try to match those. So if you have extra time, you want to do that, that would be great. If you have a particular thing you would like to see happen here or a thing you'd like us to have and you want to donate resources, I mean, we have this bell. It's like a bell for ants. It's my bell. So, a bell that is like, sorry, cracking myself up. Like a bell that's on the right scale for the room would be nice.
If you feel like volunteering or contributing for the bell, please let us know.
Yeah, we want to have music. We have community members. No, Eric. We have community members who have bands, like Eric, and that band can play on this stage. But there's a whole concert series that we want to host, and if you want to sponsor that, you can. We have so many things that we want to do, and there are so many ways to support this place, and we are just getting started. This is just the beginning. Like, you are all here right in the early days, and there's just so many ways to contribute and make this into what it's going to be. So talk to me after the sit if you want to volunteer. Please donate. It would really help us out a lot. And I'll just say again, it's just so nice to be sitting in person with you all again. So, oh no, wait, we have a new class. And then, finally, we, on May 4th, okay, Michael's going to say some more stuff after this. On May 4th, which you can remember because it's Star Wars Day, we're starting NSDR, which stands for Non-Sleep Deep Rest, with Kelly Boys. So it's going to be about a 45-minute guided yoga nidra, lying down, guided sit. She does a lot of the sleep stuff for Daniel, for Aura, like the ring. And she's just an amazing teacher in various other awesome dimensions of awesomeness. And so her class is starting on the 4th, and that will be Wednesday nights at 6:30. So if you're interested in that, or if you have a friend who might be interested in that, or if you have no idea what it is and want to try it out, that will be every Wednesday night at 6:30, non-sleep, deep rest. It's gonna be-
So it's not just relaxing. She's a non-dual teacher, and so, you know, you're getting put into a place of extremely deep non-sleep rest and then, you know, meditating essentially. But you're laying down, and she's been doing this for over a decade at a very, very high level. So check it out. It's powerful stuff. The other thing I wanted to mention is last week, Katie was saying that, you know, we give the teachers 70% of the Dana right now, of the donations, but I'm announcing that I'm giving back all my donations. So anything you donate on my nights in the room just goes to the Olympic, because we're just taking off here right now. So I want to do my part too, and not only, you know, do some meditation stuff, but also contribute in that way. So that's a new thing for now, and I think that's it. Yes, I can't understand.
I can share something.
Sure.
I had a surgery, so I'm covering my mouth.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay.
So I just wanted to say how amazing it is to meditate in person with people. It's truly amazing. It's the first time I've done it in multiple years, and you know how much I love your teachings and this community. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to practice, because it's so powerful. And tonight, you know, I'm shaking because it's so meaningful. I just had the thought that if everyone could enter the state just a little bit every day, how beautiful that state embedded into our day every day would be for one another.
Right.
Just everyone sitting together like that is so deeply healing. So thank you all, and thank you for making this place exist.
Thank you so much for sharing that and for coming all the way over here.
Yeah.
And
I'm here for 3 days from North Carolina. And I wanted to come here to sit.
excellent. Welcome.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for sharing. So good to see you.
Really good to see you. It's really, really good to be here in person. It makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Meditating together is a thing, right? We all help each other to sit better. I don't know how that works, but it does work. I can really feel it. Thanks. All right, that's it. So, Katie, is there a tea time?
Yeah, stay for tea.
Stay for tea, hang
if
out.
people weren't here last week and they want like a little tour orientation of the space, you can find me. If there's like a critical mass, we'll do that. But otherwise, like, yeah, stay, have a cup of tea, chat, talk about practice.
This is your space. Hang out.
Oh, please put your cushion away.